Welcome to baseball season's 1983 Charm City.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
Two out, two on in the bottom of the ninth. High to left field.
Unfortunately, we lost to Milwaukee.
It's over.
We needed to win all four of the remaining games against them. We won the first three and lost the last one.
The Milwaukee Brewers have defeated the Baltimore Orioles, and they have won the American League Eastern Division Championship for 1982.
To this day, that's the most disappointing loss that I've ever had.
And Earl Weaver is crying. A man who in 15 years has become an absolute legend.
The most successful manager in franchise history had retired. But after a bitter end to the 82 season, the Baltimore Orioles were already looking ahead.
We were so close in 82, so the next year, as I remember it, you know, we were urgent.
Once spring training arrived, the Birds emerged from hibernation with high expectations and a new skipper charged with managing them.
The American League East certainly is a tough division. It's not going to be easy to win it, but I think all a manager can ask for is a competitive team.
Sophomore jinx. You feel like something like that exists because of the pressure of being Rookie of the Year?
Well, I really don't believe too much in the sophomore jinx. As long as I adjust, and I think that I'll have a pretty good year.
In Milwaukee, the defending AL pennant winners felt they had unfinished business following a loss to the Cardinals in Game 7 of the World Series.
We know what it takes to win a championship, and if we have everyone healthy and available, then I think we'll go back and win again.
But to do so, they'd have to survive injuries to 82 Cy Young Award winner Pete Vukovich.
Last one, I'm just going to walk on over.
And all-star relief ace Raleigh Fingers.
This winter I did a lot of resting. That's about all you can really do with this type of injury is let it rest.
Can I go? Oh, this thing's killing me. I got to get some ice on it.
There's still a little bit of pain in there, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm getting good velocity on my pitches.
Most improved team in the East?
How about that one? What's that?
Yankees.
During the offseason, free agency had once again brought big names and big bats to the Bronx.
You talk about Steve Kemp and Don Baylor in the middle of your lineup. You're talking about a pretty darn good lineup to mix in there with Davey Winfield. I don't think there's going to really be an out in our lineup. We're going to have a good lineup. I think our pitching is tremendous.
Every team in the AL East finished within 6 games of 582, which meant that the division was stacked.
It'll be good.
And up for grabs.
When you look through the entire division, you hate to count anybody out. So it's going to be all a dogfight, but I think Baltimore and New York are going to be the two toughest teams.
Out west, the White Sox had a spring in their step and an enviable starting rotation as 19-game winner LaMarr Hoyt was joined by Floyd Bannister, the defending AL strikeout king.
They put a lot of fresh money and enthusiasm into the franchise, and we had some young pitchers that were now starting to get some experience. So we went into 83, and we felt like we were a legitimate contender.
Of course, George Brett's Kansas City Royals could not be counted out after a 90-win second-place finish.
Last year we could have won. This year it's hard to say because you had a lot of guys have good years, and we're going to have to repeat those years in every department.
And an aging but still formidable Angels squad aimed to repeat as the division champs.
We have so much talent on this team. If we can keep the old bodies in one piece, we're going to be in the hunt.
Ready to go.
If the Angels were gray, the Phillies were even more seasoned. The so-called Wheeze Kids were the oldest team in the National League. As Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez, Steve Carlton, and Tug McGraw were all 38 and up.
Basically, most of the guys was taking Geritol back then. There were just a bunch of older guys there that were maybe at the end of their rope, so to speak.
Across the Keystone State.
Now I'm going to take you deep.
The Pirates looked to counter with 3-time batting champ Bill Matlock. And in Montreal, 23-year-old Tim Raines was already one of baseball's most dynamic players and was surrounded by all-star talent like Gary Carter, Al Oliver, and the Hawk, Andre Dawson. As for the defending World Series champions, their goal was simple yet difficult, to win it all again.
Anytime you're trying to repeat, it's going to be a little bit tougher that following year because you're not going to be able to surprise anybody.
In the NL West, no lineup loomed larger than the Braves, anchored by Bob Horner and reigning MVP Dale Murphy.
How do you see the National League West?
I'd have to say we're one of the favorites because our ball club only got better. Of course, the Dodgers, it's going to be awfully tough for them to make up for the loss of Garvey.
After 14 seasons in Dodger blue, 8-time All-Star Steve Garvey moved down the California coast to join the San Diego Padres.
You never want to lose Garv, but it's just part of the business and something you have to take.
A talented core remained in Los Angeles, led by All-Star Pedro Guerrero, Rookie of the Year Steve Sachs, and perhaps the best rotation in the league.
They're going to be contenders without a doubt because of their pitching. I mean, you got Valenzuela and Royce and Welch. They can pitch.
Tu necessita para passar poquito tempo quando tu tens poquito stiffness or dolor of tu braço.
It was clear in any language that optimism reigned in spring training. But on opening day, it was one veteran pitcher's homecoming that took center stage.
From the bottom of my heart, it's great to be back in New York. It's great to be a New York Met once again.
5.5 years after being traded to Cincinnati, 3-time Cy Young Award winner Tom Seaver returned to Shea Stadium to once again take the mound as a Met.
Tom Seaver was starting opening day, and from the bullpen, he walked on the field. And before that time, no one ever walked on the field from the bullpen.
He walked out real slow, and my heart palpitated when that happened. He belonged back there.
Phenomenal, emotional. And they're saying, hey, this is great. We get to see you again. It was a big deal. What was most important to me that day was my art form, pitching.
In a word, Tom was terrific, throwing 6 scoreless innings to help lead the Mets to a 2-0 opening day win over Philadelphia. In the season's second week, another fan favorite was back where he began, this time suiting up as the opposition.
I've looked forward to this for several months now. Essentially, Dodger Stadium's been my home, and the fans have been my family professionally for 13 years now, and it's more or less of a homecoming.
The ovation that went up for Steve Garvey, people here remember, and for great reason.
The next night, Garvey played in his 1,118th consecutive game, breaking the 13-year-old NL record previously held by Hall of Famer Billy Williams.
Since late 75, Garvey's been in every Dodger box score, or now Padre box score.
I had an obligation to the fans, and there were times when I played with migraines and hairline fractures and pulled hamstrings, but I still thought I could go out there and make a contribution to the team.
Tremendous emotional outpouring here at Dodger Stadium, not only from the 50,000 fans on hand, but from Garvey itself. You could read it in his face.
1983 would also bear witness to feats of pitching longevity, as 3 hurlers challenged the 60-plus-year-old record held by the man they call the Big Train.
Walter Johnson's strikeout record, 3,508, was thought to be an enduring record like Cy Young's 511 victories. Yet here we were in 1983 with the likelihood that 3 pitchers would surpass him: Nolan Ryan, Gaylord Perry, Steve Carlton. Ryan was the first to do it.
It was a backdoor curveball.
1-2 pitch strike.
When I came into baseball, that was one of those unbreakable records Walter Johnson's was. So glad to accomplish that and get it behind me.
3,509 strikeouts to own that record all by himself.
Less than a month later, Steve Carlton also caught the Big Train to move into second place behind Ryan, and the race was on to see who'd be on top at the end of the season. The hottest team at the start of '83 was in Atlanta. The Braves were close to unbeatable at home and finished April 14-5.
High bouncer! Braves are gonna win!
Dale Murphy led the charge with 7 home runs and 21 RBIs as he sought to become the first NL outfielder to win consecutive MVP awards.
It was just one of those things where the team was playing well, I felt good about my game, and things gelled.
It's just amazing how good Dale Murphy is.
The Braves' lead in the NL West was slim, however, because the Dodgers at 14-6 enjoyed a strong start of their own.
That'll win it. The Dodgers are winners tonight.
As May arrived, so did strawberry season in New York. as the first overall pick of the 1980 draft was ripe with talent.
Watching this swing, I said, this guy has potential to be a Hall of Famer, and the body makeup.
Here's 6'7".
This guy was an athlete.
More like a basketball player's leap.
There was a lot of high expectations for me coming through the farm system and coming here right away and changing the face of the Mets. But the game started to come to me the way the game was supposed to be.
In Chicago, another rookie's bat was drawing attention. An undrafted former steelworker, Kittle didn't have the same pedigree as Straw, but his power was undeniable.
Ron Kittle's one of the strongest guys you'll ever see.
A tremendous home run on top by Kittle on the roof.
And it was fun watching Ron Kittle break into the big leagues. And Kitty was a big asset to that 83 ball club.
I was honored to have a uniform to play at this caliber.
50 home runs last year in AAA in Edmonton.
I went out there to compete, give it my best every single day, and I also wanted to be the hero every game.
Number 13 for Kittle, just tied for the Major League lead in home runs.
The newcomer represented a silver lining for the White Sox, who were 5 games under 500 at the end of May. Another club that was grounded early, the Orioles, who had yet to take flight under their new skipper. In Baltimore, the dynamic duo of Eddie Murray and Cal Ripken Jr., who had combined for 60 home runs the previous season, began 1983 with a power outage.
I probably didn't get off to the fastest start.
And Ripken is gone.
But I don't remember the early struggles when you look back on it. I know we had a couple of 7 or 8 game losing streaks.
With their big bats not yet booming, the Birds finished May only 4 games over 500, just 4th in the AL East.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out. It's over. The Orioles wind up in the loss column.
Out west, the Angels took off, thanks to the otherworldly hitting of their legendary batting magician.
Rodney Klein Carew, the hitter extraordinaire.
As we sit here, you're batting .445.
The 7-time batting champ had hit safely in 33 of his first 40 games over the season's first 2 months, prompting the natural question.
Can you hit 400? Is it possible?
Well, we're still in May. I don't know what's going to happen. It would be a tremendous feat to do it, though.
It's possible that Rod Carew can do it.
While the 37-year-old was raking.
Step on top. Yeah. As opposed to being out here? Yeah.
Another ageless wonder was leading the NL in strikeouts.
Good breaking pitch.
And when Nolan Ryan missed a month due to injury, Lefty gained ground in the record books as well.
Struck him out. Number 3,522 for Steve Carlton. He has surpassed Nolan Ryan as the all-time Major League strikeout king.
Steve and I were going back and forth, and I made the statement one time that I really thought that Steve Carlton would end up with the all-time strikeout record because of his body type and the way he threw and his workout regime. I just thought that he would be one of those guys that pitched for a long time.
Once Ryan returned to the mound, the 2 aces traded places atop the career strikeout list all summer.
You couldn't really follow it as closely as you can today with all the coverage, but what a duel. 2 tremendous pitchers with huge strikeout totals.
What has to be one of the greatest feats in the history of this great game.
The K's kept coming as another milestone was reached in Milwaukee.
Swing and a miss! There is 3,000 for John Sutton.
There is no set formula for the Hall of Fame.
And a standing ovation.
I would certainly hope that it enhances my chances of life, seeing how there have been very few people who have 3,000 strikeouts and 300 wins.
In New York on Independence Day, there was more magic on the mound as a 24-year-old southpaw did something no Yankee pitcher had done in 27 seasons.
Doing the pitching, Dave Righetti with a record of 9-3.
The All-Star break was the next day, and I remember it was a very, very hot and humid day. The heat was getting hotter and hotter, and he was cruising.
Strike 3. Righetti has that heater today.
All of a sudden, it comes up to the 8th, 9th inning, and he's got a no-hitter going.
Thompson throws it to first for the sure out. Now the 1 out to go. Will he do it? This crowd is wild.
Then it had to be Boggsy.
Wade Boggs, the batter.
Going for a no-hitter here, but the guy's hitting 360 up there, y'all.
This is the toughest out in baseball today.
With 2 outs in the 9th inning, that if I got a hit, there was probably no way that I was going to get out of New York alive, but he struck me out on a big sweep and slider.
Trying to get Boggs.
July 4th was a special day, Steinbrenner's birthday, Lou Gehrig Day. It fits in with the Yankee so-called lore, I guess, and that's why people remember kind of where they were. They remember they were on the beach and things like that.
The first Yankee to pitch a no-hitter since 1956.
Chicago, it's the home of the 50th anniversary of the All-Star Game, and Comiskey Park, where it all began.
Over the first 30 years of All-Star play, the leagues have been close to evenly matched. But during the next 2 decades, the senior circuit had taken charge.
We worked very hard at showing our dominance at that time, and at that particular time, we were dominating the American League.
The American League is hoping to sweep away the unpleasant memories of 11 straight losses.
That was my 9th All-Star appearance.
From the California Angels,
and prior to that, we'd lost every game that I'd ever played in an All-Star game.
The American League has won 1 All-Star game since 1962.
And as American Leaguers, we were really tired of hearing about it.
The opening festivities are now just memories, and it's time to play ball.
In the 3rd inning, what began as a shaky, error-filled exhibition quickly escalated into an AL onslaught.
We went ahead of those guys 3-1. In fact, my ex-teammate Jimmy Rice had hit a home run off Atlee Hammaker.
And he hammers it to left. Reigns goes back. It's gone. Home run for Jim Rice. So they're leading 3-1.
And look at that American League bench. They're tired of hearing about losing 19 out of 20.
After Rice's round tripper, the AL sent 9 more batters to the plate in what became the highest scoring inning in All-Star history.
Well, now they're going to walk Robin Yount, and that'll load up the bases. And Freddie Lynn will be the batter.
Now, that doesn't really set too well with me at any point in my career, and I've made people pay for that.
Let's go, Freddie.
Got to 2-2, and I looked for that slider, and I got it. Little fist pump, and I never did that kind of stuff. I didn't want to show anybody up. But I was just happy that I knew we were going to win.
What an inning. 7 runs in the 3rd inning.
We ended up winning that game, I think, 13-3.
The American League wins its first All-Star game in 12 years. It's a win that was built on a combination of solid pitching and a 3rd inning explosion.
The summer's biggest explosion came a few weeks later in the Bronx, where a matchup between the Yankees and Royals got a little sticky.
Gossage to pitch to Brett with a tying run at first base and 2 outs.
Here it is, top of the 9th. George steps up, and I'm thinking, boy, I am not gonna give this guy anything to hit.
The set by Gossage. The pitch. Deep to right field. Holy cow, I don't believe it. Home run for George Brett. Now the Royals have the 1-run lead.
When George hit that home run, we were very excited about it, and all of a sudden, Billy Morton decided to play the trick on everybody about the pine tar too high on the bat.
You are not allowed to have a substance of any kind above the trademark.
Now that is the plate umpire, Tim McClellan, with the bat in his hand.
I got the crew together to make sure that we were all in accordance with the rule. We came back and measured it on home plate being 17 inches across, and it was about 7 or 8 inches more.
You know, I'm sitting there, and I said, if they call me out for using too much pine tar, I'll run out there and I'll kill one of those SOBs, talking about the umpires.
They might be going to call George Brett out.
Well, he's out.
Yes, Brett is out. Look at this.
I went a little ballistic. I don't think I would have been as ballistic, but Joe Brinkman, an American League umpire, he grabbed me from behind and kind of got me in a chokehold and started dragging me away. A lot of the emotion was trying to get out of his chokehold.
And the Yankees have won the ball game 4-3.
Game over. But anyway, the league overruled it.
With Casey's protest upheld, Brett's blast went back on the board, and the 9th inning resumed in New York 3 weeks later.
It was an eerie feeling because Yankee Stadium was not nearly how it is when you go there on a regularly scheduled game. There were very few fans awaiting the bus. Once you got into the ballpark, it was ghost town-like.
Had you ever been to a game where so few people were here an hour before a game?
No, I don't think Yankee Stadium has had a crowd that's been like this.
And it was a 4-out resumption.
We're here at Yankee Stadium to pick up this game in the top half of the 9th inning with 2 outs, and the Royals now leading 5-4.
Yankee manager Billy Martin expressed his displeasure with a bizarre defensive alignment and a challenge to the new umpiring crew.
Don Mattingly is at second base. Now watch this next shot. Ron Guidry is in center field.
Billy went through all his things with appealing bases.
Billy could come out and say, wait a minute, fellas, how do you know that Brett touched second base because you were not here?
That's right.
The umpires had it nailed. You know, they pulled out affidavits from the umpires who were working the original series that said that George hit every base.
So we add just a little more drama to the infamous Pine Tar game.
We were literally on the field for less than 10 minutes. The Yankees recorded the third out.
Struck him out.
We went out, Quiz took his warm-up pitches, got through the ninth inning.
And the Pine Tar game is over.
We went in, showered real quick, packed up for a series to start the next day.
Shortly after the All-Star break, the Phillies, who were a disappointing one game over 500, decided that a change needed to be made.
I like Pat Corrales. I think Pat Corrales did the best he could. We just felt that we weren't getting as much out of our ball club.
So General Manager Paul Owens put on a uniform and took charge of the field managing duties.
Struck. The Phillies win it. Big guy.
In San Diego, the Padres were also stuck around 500 and hoped that the second half would bring a breakthrough. Instead, it bore witness to a bad break, as first baseman Steve Garvey was lost for the season with a dislocated thumb.
Once I got up and had to put it back in place, and then it wouldn't stay there, I knew that it was over.
And so was his NL record consecutive game streak at 1,207. While one streak ended, another was underway in Baltimore, where shortstop Cal Ripken Jr. had played in every game since May 30th, 1982.
The Oriole team in general got better as the year went on. The early part of the season was about getting our pitching staff all lined up, so I don't remember being that worried.
We had some young kids like Mike Boddicker and Al Ramirez come up. Storm Davis filled in. He became a starter and did a great job. No one had really expected us to be where we are right now.
The Birds went 19-7 in July and climbed to the very top of a tight AL East race. And as August began, the Kansas City Royals, just 3 games behind the White Sox, were in a race of their own in the AL West. And their July acquisition, 22-year veteran Gaylord Perry, was approaching a milestone that 2 others had only recently reached.
Now retires aside.
It was something that everybody was thinking about. Wally Johnson's such a great pitcher. And then you got Steve Carlton, who just got a lot of strikeouts because they had a great slider. And you got Nolan Ryan, who threw so hard. And then it was me tricking guys. So
Perry became the 3rd pitcher in 4 months to pass Johnson on the career strikeout list. But his K's brought KC no closer to the White Sox, who were charging full speed ahead. Although the Chi Sox won 22 games in August and September, their style was branded as winning ugly.
You know, we'd go along and it didn't look like we were going to win, and then something would happen and give us a little opening.
The Sox take a 4-2 lead.
Then that's not winning ugly. That's intimidation.
And no one was more intimidating that season than LaMarr Hoyt.
LaMarr Hoyt was a big, rotund guy, and people would wonder how in the world can this guy be a baseball player, but I'll tell you what, impeccable control.
Got him, just blew him away with a high hummer.
The White Sox, every time he took the mound from July through the end of the season, 14 starts in a row.
Got him looking. LaMarr Hoyt becomes the first 15-game winner in the American League.
The White Sox starters dominated the AL as Hoyt combined with Floyd Bannister and Richard Dotson to go 42-5 in the second half.
What a game by Dotson.
We had smart pitchers on the mound with the hitters that we had in the lineup that we had a chance to win a ball game, and we proved it that year.
Kittle's 35 home runs earned him the AL Rookie of the Year award, and Greg Luzinski's 32 helped him win the award for Outstanding DH. The White Sox won 50 of their final 66 games to take control of the West.
There was no doubt that we were going to clinch, just by how much.
They would finish with a 20-game cushion over second-place Kansas City.
September 17th, magic number was 1. We had another great crowd at the ballpark, and we had it tied in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Harold Baines delivered a game-winning sacrifice fly, and the White Sox celebrated their first postseason berth since 1959.
The Chicago White Sox, the 1983 Western champions in the American League.
As the season reached the dog days, the AL East was still up for grabs, though everyone was looking up at the defending division champs. The O's power outage in April was a distant memory as they were slugging and soaring in the second half.
We had a great run in late August and into September to try and catch the Brewers in our division, and we did.
During an 8-game winning streak, Cal Ripken Jr. contributed 4 home runs and 10 runs batted in.
In the second half, I caught fire. I was trying to contribute and trying to help the team win, and my average continued to climb and climb.
Ripken hit .393 in September as the O's took control and then tightened their grip on the division.
We win dramatically. I'm not kidding. 7th, 8th, 9th inning, sometimes, we come back. It's a different hero every night.
The ball game is over. That is hard to believe.
Right behind Ripken in the lineup was protection of the best kind. All-star first baseman Eddie Murray, who finished the season with a career-high 33 home runs. And a team-leading 111 RBIs as the Birds headed to October.
Didn't really get any recognition pretty much all year. We kept winning and winning, and nobody really knew it. So I'd say that if Chicago wins ugly, we win very quietly.
There was nothing quiet about Ripken's 83 campaign. With 27 home runs and 102 RBIs, he became the first player in history to win the Rookie of the Year and MVP awards in successive seasons.
Boy, what a career this young fellow has ahead of him.
As for the reigning NL MVP, Dale Murphy and his Braves continued to lead their division. And the center fielder was on his way to his second consecutive Most Valuable Player award.
There's really nothing like being in a pennant race that will help your performance individually. It helps when you're in the thick of things.
But as August turned to September, the Braves stumbled, losing 9 of 10 and opening the door for the Dodgers.
Now, line drive, that's what we need now.
Pedro Guerrero led Los Angeles with 32 homers and 103 RBIs. While Dodgers pitching was also stellar.
And is called out on strike.
A little too hard now, just a little more often.
The Hurlers in Los Angeles topped the National League in earned run average.
Swung on and missed, strike 3, and the Dodgers win it 5-2.
Still, they couldn't completely shake Atlanta, who came to Chavez Ravine in September looking to regain first place, but the Dodgers would rise to the moment.
Wait, discipline yourself, let that ball be down where your strength is, okay? All right, get a good ball, go ahead. Right man, right spot, come on.
The Dodgers have caught up with a double by Marshall off the right field wall.
And L.A. took 2 of 3 to extend their lead in the West. It would take all of September, however, before they could exhale.
That night, Atlanta was playing in San Diego. We were playing at home against the Giants. If Atlanta lost or we won, we win the division. About the 7th, 8th inning of our game comes on the board.
The Braves have battled long and hard, and boy, they refused to quit. They hung tough. And there's a ball to Lucas, the throw to first, and it's all over.
So we're celebrating and jumping up and down in the dugout.
And the Dodgers are the National League Western champions.
While the Dodgers had the NL's top pitching staff, the Phillies had the ace. And to the surprise of many, the name on his jersey was not Carlton.
For John Denny to outpitch Steve, it was just phenomenal.
10-year veteran John Denny had been absolutely spectacular during this season's second half.
It's one of those guys, when he took the mound, you absolutely knew you were going to win the game. That's how good he was. He just went out and dealt.
Phillies win by a score of 9-5. Move back in front.
And down the stretch, Steve Carlton was dealing too.
This is such a significant occasion to go for a 300th win.
As he reached yet another career milestone.
Struck him right out of there. Thank you, 32.
With Lefty, it's going out there and doing what he'd been doing his whole career, and it's thrilling.
Steve Carlton winning his 300th Major League game.
Number 300 came during an 11-game winning streak, affirming this veteran club's hunger for another shot at the postseason.
We end up having really a great September. It was like maybe just one more time to be able to get to the playoffs.
22-7 in September, the Wheeze Kids showed staying power, clinching a postseason berth.
Breaking ball slammed to left field, and a great grab by Greg Gross, and the Phillies have won the National League East.
For the second time in 5 years, the American League Championship Series opened in Baltimore, where the Orioles welcomed the Chicago White Sox.
Chicago won 99 this year, most in baseball. Baltimore was right behind with 98. LaMarr, Hoyt, 24-game winner for the Chi Sox. The left-hander Scott McGregor, who won 18, goes for Baltimore.
Both starters were sharp in Game 1, but Chicago's Cy Young Award winner was dominant.
Struck him out.
LaMarr got us started, and he pitched just like he pitched all season long. Just great command of an array of pitches. Just pressure couldn't get to him.
He fans him on 3 pitches.
He was unhittable. He had an unbeaten streak at that point. And yes, I got a single in the last inning, I think, but it was a jam job flare base hit that fell in.
Despite allowing 1 run in the 9th, Hoyt tossed a 5-hit complete game, and Chicago took an early series lead on the road.
LaMarr Hoyt goes the distance as Chicago claims Game 1 2-1.
As the series went on, I think one of the goals was to not face him again because he was that unbeatable.
In Game 2, Orioles rookie Mike Boddicker turned in an even more impressive performance.
Sets them down 1-2-3.
He mixed his pitches well. He struck me out 4 times, so he was very impressive.
And the White Sox, they had great hitters, and they battled the heck out of me. It seemed like I was 2-2, 3-2 on a ton of guys, and I had good stuff that day, good location.
Boddicker fanned 14 in the O's 4-0 victory. No pitcher had ever thrown a shutout with more Ks in his postseason debut. And the series shifted to Chicago, knotted at a game apiece.
We were going home tied with best 2 out of 3, so we thought we were in really great shape.
Instead, they were in for a rude awakening. Baltimore put 11 runs on the board in Game 3 and put the White Sox on the brink.
And the Orioles lead it 2-1.
It's a do-or-die situation. The Sox backs are against the wall.
Probably one of the great games of postseason history. Our young Britt Burns against Storm Davis.
Game 4 was another pitcher's duel, and neither team could break through.
Curveball got him swinging.
Britt was just cruising along, but we weren't able to get any run support.
The game was scoreless through 9, but in the 10th, the Birds' bats awakened.
This ball is gone! Home run, Tito Landrum!
Just in time to punch their ticket for Baltimore's 6th World Series appearance.
And the Baltimore Orioles are the American League champions of 1983.
As the Phillies and Dodgers squared off in the NLCS, the odds seemed to be stacked heavily in one direction.
The Dodgers have beaten the Phillies 11 out of 12 times this year.
They beat us 11 out of 12. It's about time for it to turn in our favor. We went in there, I think, with a lot of confidence.
I had actually told Dusty Baker that we were definitely going to beat them in the playoffs. Also, I claimed that I would win the MVP.
Armed with confidence, the experienced Phillies braced for a battle in Los Angeles. Where in his first at-bat, their slugging third baseman served notice that recent history was now irrelevant.
And he hits a high fly ball into deep center. And can't get it. Home run for Mike Schmidt.
One run was all that Steve Carlton and the Phillies would need to claim the first game for Philadelphia.
And down he goes. Second strikeout for Steve Carlton.
Well, then there's a whole lot of zeros up there, and of course my one happened in the first inning, and without Steve Carlton and Al Holland, it wouldn't have been 1-0. They were great.
A ground ball to short. DeJesus has got it. Over to first. Phillies win.
And now we're 11-2 with them this year, so we still have a long way to go.
The Phils' momentum stalled, however, as the Dodgers took Game 2.
The Dodgers are alive and even as they beat Philadelphia 4-1.
In Philadelphia for Game 3, a rookie right-hander enjoyed a dazzling postseason debut.
You go in with the rookie, I think there's maybe some hesitation, and Charles just stepped up and did what he did that year, pitched a great game.
That's 9 strikeouts for Charlie Hudson.
Gary Matthews led the offense with 3 hits and 4 RBIs and put the Dodgers on their heels, down 2-1.
And he's 5 for 11 in the series.
In Game 4, Sarge remained in charge. As Matthews continued to make his case for MVP honors and bring misery to the Dodgers.
Seeing Tommy Lasorda actually really sweating for a change was really just a dream come true for me.
Boy, this crowd is really psyched now. They are 1 strike away from Baltimore.
That's it. Swing and a miss, strike 3. And the Philadelphia Phillies are National League champions.
The 1983 World Series was a matchup between Charm City and the city of brotherly love.
There's a little backyard brawl between the Orioles and the Phillies. The 1983 World Series, and we are getting ready for baseball.
Thought it was no chance that we were going to actually lose just because of the momentum that we had going in.
In addition to momentum, the Phillies had their new ace on the mound for Game 1 in Baltimore, Cy Young Award winner John Denny.
I think we're not here. Can I tell you?
But the O's came out swinging in the bottom of the first. Scott McGregor held the Phillies scoreless through 5 innings, but then Joe Morgan, playing in his 4th World Series, came to bat in the 6th.
There's other Joe. Come on. And we're tied 1-1.
The game was still tied in the 8th when center fielder Gary Maddox stepped to the plate.
Back in the left and a home run. Go on top for the first time, 2-1.
Nursing a late inning lead, the Phils turned to southpaw Al Holland to shut the door on the Orioles.
The Phillies have won the first game of the 1983 World Series.
The next night, Baltimore called upon reliable rookie right-hander Mike Boddicker to even the series.
You got ready to face him. Buckle up, because I can remember that curveball, 12-6. It was rough.
What was that? Curveball, off-speed curveball.
I just did my thing. Threw my curveball, threw my changeup, moved my fastball around.
Mike Boddicker had this dominating performance and really picked the whole ball club up single-handedly.
If you get in a situation where you got 2 strikes on you and you want to drag one, go ahead.
Boddicker helped his own cause with a sacrifice fly.
Cruz tags. The catch is made. Here comes the throw. It is not in time. 3-1.
And allowed only 3 hits in a complete game victory.
To win that game sent us into Philadelphia even up, and that was very important for us.
Just a short drive up north, Philadelphia's Veterans Stadium hosted Game 3. And the hometowners got started early against lefty Mike Flanagan, providing a 2-run cushion for yet another battle-tested Philly veteran.
Steve Carlton on the mound. Come on, lefty.
I had faced Steve Carlton for the first time and found out about the invisible slider down and in. How unhittable that pitch is.
Carlton cruised early, but the Birds were forced to go to their bullpen. Three-time Cy Young Award winner Jim Palmer made his first World Series relief appearance.
He came out and just did a terrific job out of the pen.
And the 18-year veteran threw 2 scoreless innings.
You really have to tip your hat to the Orioles pitching staff.
The bullpen combined for 5 scoreless frames, and Palmer earned the win for Baltimore.
And the Orioles take the lead in the series.
Looking to tie it up in Game 4, John Denny went back to the hill for Philadelphia, but on short rest, he struggled.
When you're a road team, you want to actually get out and play with a lead.
Right there, can I count?
Take the crowd out and take a little pressure off. So I was happy that I got a hit in the beginning. We started a rally.
And again, the bottom of the order comes through for Baltimore.
The Fighting Phils battled back to take a 3-2 lead, but Denny and the bullpen couldn't protect it against the high-flying Orioles.
We started to feel the confidence that we had as a team at that time.
And for the second straight game, Tippy Martinez closed out a Birds victory.
And the Orioles are 1 game away from the World Championship.
Despite a 2-game cushion, the O's had learned the hard way that the series wasn't over yet.
We kind of had a flashback to 1979. We had blown a World Series. We were up 3-1 and ended up losing 4-3 to Pittsburgh.
We had 15 of the same players on the team in '83 that we had in '79. And when we got ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies, 3-1, nobody celebrated, nobody said anything.
Game 5 starter Scott McGregor was one of the Birds who had been there before.
All that keeps going through my mind is oh my God, we're up 3-1 again. So I said, God, we can't do this twice.
This time, the Orioles, and Eddie Murray in particular, were ready to end it.
Fortunately, Eddie decided to show up that day and hit 2 bombs off the scoreboard.
One thing about Murray is when he breaks out of a slump, he really does it.
He homered the right center field, and I'll never forget his name being on the board.
Murray drills it to deep right center field again.
And the ball hitting on his name on the scoreboard.
So it's been clearly Baltimore's day.
Hey, get him right here. Come on, guys. McGregor has thrown a 5-hit shutout to this point. 5-0 Baltimore.
I was pushing everything out of my mind. Got to get 3 outs.
And the Orioles are an out away.
Swing on the line drive, caught by Ripken.
I squeezed my glove around the ball.
And the Orioles pour out of the dugout.
And the best feeling by far in my whole career came over me.
They are the new champions of baseball.
Then the next thing I know, Demper jumps on me, and then it kind of hit me, so it took about 5 seconds before the emotions caught up with it.
It was the 3rd World Series championship in franchise history, and the Orioles' first since 1970.
There you go, Bobby.
In one of the lowest scoring World Series in the live ball era, the Orioles pitching staff was masterful, holding the Phillies to 9 runs in 5 games. Combined with the ALCS, Baltimore pitchers surrendered just 12 runs in 82 postseason innings.
Honecker closes it out in fitting fashion.
1983 marked the final World Series appearance for Hall of Famers Schmidt, Morgan, Perez, Carlton, Palmer, and Ripken, as well as Rose. The Phillies would finally win their 2nd World Series championship in 2008. The Orioles haven't reached the Fall Classic since their 1983 title.
It is the end of one of the most exciting, most memorable seasons.
30 years after Ryan, Carlton, and Perry all raced to the record, the 3,000 strikeout club had doubled in size, and Carlton and Ryan made up half the 4,000 K club.
And Nolan Ryan gets number 5,000.
In the first year that the award was given, the White Sox Tony La Russa and the Dodgers Tommy Lasorda won Manager of the Year honors. He would also be recognized in 1988, while La Russa would eventually become the first 4-time winner.